Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salalo Makudiri. The time is almost 10 minutes before 8, and in a bit, we'll be delving into a very, very interesting development where our neighbors, Namibia, well, they're heading out to the polls, and it's going to be a highly anticipated general elections, which will be happening on the 28th of November. The political landscape is undergoing a seismic shift, I think, which has been quite the trend when you look at the SADC region as a whole, with the various countries in the region going through what seems to be some sort of a shift and a change in their politics and governance and who gets to govern. I think this is a very, very important part of the African continent. The ruling party in Namibia, SWAPO party, which has been a dominant force since Namibia's independence, is facing unprecedented challenges from the opposition, most notably the IPC, the Independent Patriots for Change. This election is not just a contest for votes, but a reflection of a deeper societal issue, economic stagnation, governance crises, and growing disillusionment. And this is quite a trend, this disillusionment that the region has been having with liberation movements across SADC. And joining us this morning to unpack these dynamics and explore whether SWAPO can weather the storm is Nyasha Mcbride Mpani, the project lead for the Data for Governance Alliance at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation in Cape Town. Welcome to the show, Nyasha. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Good morning and good morning to your viewers.
I think, before we focus on Namibia specifically, maybe we can touch a bit on the SADC region. A number of countries, have, went to the polls, and there seems to be a growing trend, particularly with, the liberation movements of the region. We are currently seeing what's happening in Mozambique and the situation there with Frelimo, Botswana, almost a similar case. You look at South Africa and, the liberation movement here, the ANC, and how they have suffered in the previous general elections. There seems to be a shift. There seems to be a wave in the region when it comes to these movements that have brought us this supposed freedom and liberation, and they don't seem to be in favor anymore. What do you make of that?
This just tells you that the political landscape is shifting, and the sooner our liberation movements understand what voters do want on the ground, the better. Gone are the days where liberation movements would just campaign saying, "We fought for this country, we died for this country, we did
Slogans they
ABCD
love
for
very
you."
much.
Yes, and this no longer applies to the current voters who are the Gen Z. The Gen Zs, what they want is they want jobs. They want corruption to be dealt with. They want a basic social services to be addressed. So these are the pertinent issues which the current crop of voters are much more inclined to voting a person who is going to address these issues. So a number of our liberation parties, they are no longer addressing these issues. Most of them, or most of their leaders, they are engrossed in issues to do with corruption. They are not taking issues to do with service delivery very importantly. They are also not addressing the issues of unemployment very seriously. So this is why you are seeing there's this shift, because the current voters who are in need of these things that I've mentioned, which are the most important problems to them, they are now saying, you know what, you're not giving us what we want. We are going to vote for a party that addresses what we want.
And I think it's a very, very interesting turn of events in, what is considered, the stable region, the most stable region in the African continent, which is the SADC region. I want us now to focus on Namibia. There are two, political parties that seem to be, popping out every time you try to read up and do research on, the political landscape in Namibia. The IPC and also SWAPO, they seem to be, the front runners, going into these elections. What can you tell us about these two political parties and just how different they are and the roles that they play within the Namibian political landscape?
So as we all know, SWAPO is the liberation movement. It's a party that liberated Namibia, and it has been in power for the last 34 years. And then IPC is the new kid on the block. It's being led by Dr. Itula, who's a former SWAPO party member. He left SWAPO in 2019 and went head-to-head with the late president in an election in 2019, where he managed to garner, I think, 30% of the vote as an independent party. Since then, in 2019, he then formed a political party, which is now 4 years old. And it's going into this election. This is their first election as a political party. And if we read the poster of votes, which were released last week, you can tell, as you have said, that they are the two leading parties, SWAPO and IPC, as they went head to head on the poster of votes. So if you are to read the poster of votes, it's likely going to be a competition between SWAPO and IPC. And as the campaign is going on, we are actually seeing the rallies that are being conducted by SWAPO, as well as the door-to-door campaign that the IPC presidential candidate Dr. Itula is doing. You can actually tell that it's going to be a very difficult election for SWAPO, and IPC poses to be a very big challenge and a very big headache for SWAPO.
I want us to take a quick break, but then when we come back, I want us to focus on just the electoral process of Namibia. There's been a lot of objections on how they go about how they vote, and the systems that they utilize when it comes to enforcing that democratic process. So I want us to chat a bit about it after the short break.
Okay, thank you.
This is Salam Media. After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced, with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with Penny Appeal organizations in Gaza.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza.
This house I'm standing on is completely destroyed.
This war should stop.
These 5 houses was full of civilians.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood.
People gathering here trying to help people.
The whole neighborhood is already destroyed.
This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments.
Hamza Sha'alan, Rafah border, Gaza.
Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of the conversation.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. The time is 20 minutes past 8, and you're still tuned into your home of humanitarian journalism, Salam Media, coming to you live from our studios here in Johannesburg. And we're still talking to Nyasha Mcbride. He's the project lead for the Data for Governance Alliance at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation in Cape Town. And we're having a conversation about the Namibian elections. Namibia, one of South Africa's closest friends. We share a border with them. They're part of us as much as we are part of them. I remember at some point, one of my history and geography teachers would say, if South Africa would sneeze, then Namibia would catch a cold. So it's one of those countries that we're so deeply intertwined with, and understanding their politics is of imperative because who knows how it might affect us on the side of the border. Nyasha, thank you so much for staying with us. Really, really appreciate it. Before we went on that short break, I wanted to chat briefly about the electoral process in Namibia. There is a growing skepticism, when it comes to the Electoral Commission of Namibia, the ECN. Trust, from recent studies that I've read, trust has dropped from 74% to 45% since 2024. If you can maybe just start by explaining to us why there's such big skepticism under the Electoral Commission of Namibia, and how this might ultimately, this lack of faith might ultimately, lead to, a low voter turnout and just the overall credibility of this election. Could we have a repeat of what's currently going on in Mozambique?
So one thing that I just want to stress is that before we go into low confidence in the Electoral Commission of Namibia, is that data that we have shows that 74% of Namibians, they express preference for electing the country's leaders through a regular, open and honest elections. This means that Namibians, they have got faith that elections is the only possible method of choosing their leaders. So they are in support of elections. They love elections. They prefer using elections as a method of electing leaders. Where there's a problem is now that we are now seeing a decline in trust in the Electoral Commission. It was at peak at 74% in 2019, but now it has dropped by a 29 percentage point decline over the past decade. So citizens no longer trust the Electoral Commission. And if you were following the 2019 election, you saw that there were issues to do with electronic voter machines, which the Constitutional Court of Namibia actually ruled that it was unconstitutional for the Electoral Commission to use the electronic voter machines without giving the parties a voter verified paper audit. So this was the bone of contention in the last election, whereby the court actually ruled that what the ECN had done was unconstitutional. And obviously all these other issues that also play, whereby they were deregistering other political parties and not allowing them to register things that to go to the court, and the court had to also then say these parties should be registered. Also raised eyebrows. Issues to do with the printing of ballots has also raised concern, not done in transparency. Some also skeptical about the company that was given the tender to do the printing of ballot boxes. So these are some of the issues that then has made the ECN of Namibia to have a low trust from citizens. But however, when you look at the postal voting, which they did, I think if they are to go by what they did during the postal voting, I think this year we might not have issues to do with citizens not trusting the ECN. But we never know. We'll see what is going to happen on the 27th of November. You're on mute.
I was just saying that we hope that the process goes as smooth as possible, because I don't think the region can afford another situation like the one that we're currently seeing in Mozambique. But with that being said, I want us to come back to these two political parties, the IPC specifically. As you mentioned, they're the new kid on the block, relatively a new player in Namibia's political arena. What are some of the strategies or messaging that have propelled it, to become a credible challenger to SWAPO, which is a big institution? It has been in power since, liberation, 35 years, you mentioned. But the IPC is literally going head on with them in such a short time of their existence.
I think the IPC has benefited from what I can say SWAPO weaknesses. SWAPO has not been addressing key problems that are affecting people of Namibia. The fish road scandal, which happened in Namibia 4 years ago, nothing has been done in terms of that biggest scandal which has happened in the country. The people who were implicated in that corruption scandal, they have not yet been dealt with in terms of the laws of the country. And it seems as if those in government, they're shielding the people who are implicated in that scandal. And I think IPC has taken a leverage on that to say, you know what, when we are elected into government, we're going to deal with issues to do with corruption, which is one of the reasons that has made so many people in Namibia to have lost their jobs, and for the economy to be where it is right now. And then they've also managed to leverage on the issue of unemployment. There's been high rates of unemployment in Namibia. The Gen Z, they are calling out the government. We actually saw, I think, 2-3 days ago, or other medical interns are also protesting to say to the government, if they don't deliver on our salaries in the next 5 days, which the government hasn't paid us, we are going to down tools. And the government responded by also threatening that they are going to arrest them if they do that. So you actually see that it's a government that is not listening to the needs of the people. And IPC is coming in to say, you know what, we are going to be able to listen to your concerns. We're also going to deal with issues that you are raising. There are also issues to do with lack of proper housing. You saw even when IPC went to did some rally in some squalor area, where they say, you know, 34 years Namibia, SWAPO being in charge, look at the state of affairs in terms of where you are staying. Us as IPC are going to be able to give you decent houses. So they seem to have their ears and their heart on the pulse of what the electorate wants. And I think this is the reason why they are going head to head with SWAPO in this election.
No, definitely. I wanna focus now on SWAPO. One thing that's very, very interesting is the fact that they have their first female president candidate since their existence, Netumba Nandi Ndaitwa, who could become Namibia's first female president. How much of an impact does her candidacy have on SWAPO's chances, especially looking at maybe what happened in the US with Kamala Harris's loss in the elections in that part of the world?
It's interesting that you bring the Kamala Harris, because in my view, I think had Kamala Harris won the election in America, I think it was also going to rejuvenate the base in Namibia to say, I think it's time for a woman to take lead. But I think the loss of Kamala is demoralized citizens, and I don't think it will have any effect in propping up SWAPO's female candidate to be the president on using a female ticket. But I think what she needs to do is that she really needs to address the issues that are core to the electorate. I think if she manages to convince, that is the only way that she can be the president of Namibia. Basing on the fact that she's a woman, I don't think at the moment Namibians are going to vote just on a gender card to say just because she's a woman would want to have a female card. What citizens of Namibia want is a leader who delivers and who's going to address their concerns. The gender or female card will not work at the moment, just as what we saw in America, that it did not work. Citizens were more concerned in terms of issues that were core to them. So I think Ndaitwah needs to convince the electorate in terms of what she's going to do.
All right. I think we're going to leave it there, Nyasha. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And I'm pretty sure, as the elections, start, getting some steam in Namibia, we'll definitely be catching up with you just to get the latest coming from that part of the world.
Thank you so much.
There you go, Nyasha Mcbride Mpani, Project Lead Data for Governance Alliance Project. And he's giving us some really interesting and very, very important nuggets of information when it comes to the electoral process and the elections of Namibia, and also some of the front runners, because you can't disassociate from Namibia. They're part of us. They're very, very close to us. We share some really, really good diplomatic ties for quite a long time, and it'll be interesting just how their elections would be turning out. But again, what's really interesting for me is just that shift in the region, in the SADC region, when liberation movements are seemingly losing favor. We saw ANC for the first time in 30 years. Well, they've lost majority rule here in South Africa. They're to settle for coalition government of national unity. We saw also in Mozambique, where one of the most prominent political parties in the region, even not only in Mozambique, but in the SADC region. When you think of Frelimo and the impact that it has had on politics of Southern Africa, I think it's very, very important, to understand just how interesting it was for them to right now have a revolution, an uprising against them. The people of Mozambique saying, we don't want you anymore. And you have another situation in Botswana, where the liberation movement there, which has ruled the country for plus minus 40 years, they themselves also, getting the boot. The people of Botswana saying, well, we're done with you. This is the BDP, the Botswana Democratic Party, which has been in power since 1966. 1966. It's a long time. 58 years in power. And the people are like, nah, what you're selling us, we're not buying it anymore. So this new wave, this new, breeze of change that's flowing within the SADC region is really, really interesting. And I hope that it carries, this part of the continent to a different level, a different chapter in our politics. Because as I mentioned, SADC is a very, very important region on the African continent. If SADC does well, ultimately, the rest of Africa, has hope that, we can get ourselves together and rally together and, become a continent that's prosperous. So the continent can't afford for SADC to fail. And this new wave of politics is really refreshing. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Professor Christopher Isike, and we'll be having a really interesting conversation. This is around some of the key takeaways from the current ongoing G20 summit, which is in Rio, and also the fact that South Africa has taken presidency of the G20, because we'll be hosting the upcoming summit. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. Professor Christopher Isike coming up right after the short break.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is already destroyed. More than 17 towers are down. Here, as you can see, the firefighters trying their best to help. The people are still under the rubble. A lot of the people.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage, and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments. Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of the conversation.